Hello everybody and welcome to the Tuesday edition of Video Clips, and I want to start by talking about some new information that I have to share with you. First of all, as you guys know, because I talk about it every week, we have a conference coming up November 10th through 12th, and one of our featured speakers is Dr. Peter Gurcha, who's the co-founder of Cochrane Collaboration. And Cochrane is an independent medical research group. They analyze the data that has been published and tell you what it says about topics like mammography and NSAIDs and drugs and vaccines and all kinds of things. Well, I was speaking with Dr. Gurcha just yesterday morning, and this is the first time I've had an opportunity to have a long conversation with him. And he has a new book coming out next year called How to Survive in an Over-Medicated World. And it is a consumer's guide to understanding medical research. Finally, we're going to have a textbook for this. I am so excited. So he's going to deliver one of his two lectures on this topic. And so if you're with us in November here in Columbus, Ohio, you will get to hear this information before anybody else gets to hear this information. So I'm very excited about it. Another thing is, as we had our conversation, which went on for quite a while, it's just amazing how parallel our interests are, because he made the statement he believes any consumer, regardless of their background, can learn to understand medical research, make better decisions, and he even talked about his own personal health issues where, thank God he's a doctor, he said, because he knew not to say yes to many things that were being suggested to him. So anyway, I think it's going to be fascinating. He's going to deliver another lecture on just really how harmful drugs are, including some that you probably believe right now are rather innocuous and don't cause you problems. So I wanted to let you know about that. We have a lot of other great, amazing speakers coming, including Eileen Kopsaftis, how to overcome pain without drugs and surgery, Dr. Jeannie Stolzer, who's going to talk about not medicating kids with ADHD. You don't drug kids into compliance, for crying out loud. I don't, ridiculous idea. And she's really an amazing lecturer. Another one, Dr. Richard Ablin, coming back for a second appearance. This is the man who discovered prostate-specific antigen. We always joke around here he could be a comedian if he was not a cancer researcher. He happens to be both. He gives very entertaining lectures on a topic that's really serious. And then, of course, Dr. Peter Breggin is going to be here. And speaking of Dr. Breggin, everything in the news right now is all about the Las Vegas shooter. What an unfortunate, awful, god-awful event. Dr. Breggin has just published a new alert. He puts out these Dr. Breggin alerts. You might have noticed in our newsletter, we feature a link to those and a little description. And the one that will be in next week's newsletter, the link to it is about the Las Vegas shooter. And what Dr. Breggin says is he has confirmed information that the shooter was taking Valium, had been prescribed Valium, and an unconfirmed report that he was taking antidepressants. And of course, whenever these awful incidents happen, and it aggravates all of us very much, the thing that happens next is all of the medical professionals get on the news programs and start saying that we have a terrible mental health problem in this country and that we need to get these people to mental health professionals earlier. They completely miss the point that most of these events have been carried out by people who were under the care of expert psychiatrists and taking drugs for their condition. Our crisis in psychiatry and in mental health in this country is the drugging of people. It's not the lack of attention to these people by the psychiatric community. So we're really excited. Last week we started the Why and How to Withdraw from Psychiatric Drugs. The beginning, the very first class is offered on starting to solve this problem, which is just terrific. I anticipate that a lot more of this kind of thing is going to be happening. Everybody's on the air talking about what do we do to keep it from happening. What we do to keep it from happening is we stop psychiatrists from prescribing these drugs and other medical doctors as well. And we educate the public that they are not the solution to anything. They are the cause of a whole set of additional miseries way beyond what they're originally prescribed for. So I have a topic I want to talk about today that I know you probably think I'm beating it to death, but it's flu vaccines again. The reason I'm talking about it is because this is the season when people are being badgered into getting flu vaccines. It's not really a recommendation. It's coercion and badgering that goes on in doctors' offices and at employer sites and a number of other places. It also goes on with pregnant women. So today's lecture or topic has to do with flu vaccines in pregnant women. According to a new study, which was funded by the Centers for Disease Control, I find that very interesting, getting a flu shot while pregnant increases the risk of spontaneous abortion. Researchers conducted a case control study covering 2 flu seasons. The cases had spontaneous abortions and the matched controls had live births or stillbirths. The researchers looked at vaccination with inactivated flu vaccine between 1 to 28 days before spontaneous abortions and determined that the risk of spontaneous abortion increased by 7.7 times as a result of getting a flu shot during both the current and previous season. The researchers did note that the study could not and did not establish a causal relationship between repeated flu vaccines and spontaneous abortion, but they did advise that, quote, further research is warranted. That's an understatement. Most doctors currently recommend flu vaccines for pregnant women, and as I mentioned, coerce is probably the better term for it. It's hard to believe when the package insert states clearly that, quote, safety and effectiveness of Fluzone quadrivalent have not been established in pregnant women or children less than 6 months of age. Did you hear what I said? The safety and effectiveness of this vaccine have not been established in pregnant women. Yet every day in gynecologist's office, obstetrician's offices, women are being told to get this vaccine. Now, the Centers for Disease Control indicates no interest in further research and apparently totally disregards the package insert for the vaccine. A statement on its website in response to this new study, which it funded, reads, quote, at this time, the CDC and the Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices have not changed the recommendation for influenza vaccination of pregnant women. It's recommended that pregnant women get a flu vaccine during any trimester of their pregnancy because flu poses a danger to pregnant women and a flu vaccine can prevent influenza in pregnant women. Hard to imagine that they can say this instead of, you could at least say we probably should have some more research on the issue. They won't even go that far. Now, I read down through the whole article that they published, and they cite a lot of reasons why their own study results should be ignored, and these are just a few of them. Quote, it is possible that women who have an increased risk for miscarriage might also be more likely to have received influenza vaccine. These conditions could have made the women more likely to miscarry. Well, I have news for you. All women who are pregnant are encouraged to get the vaccine. This is not reserved, this recommendation or coercion is not reserved for women who happen to be particularly at high risk. Ludicrous defense. Another one, many miscarriages occur early in pregnancy and may not have come to medical attention. The impact on the study findings of miscarriages that were not identified is unknown. Well, the CDC is basically saying there may have been more miscarriages that were not recorded. Well, the addition of more miscarriages might actually strengthen the connection, not weaken it. And then, finally, it is not known how many women in the study were aware that they were pregnant at the time of vaccination. How could this matter? Again, the CDC's recommendation is for all pregnant women to be vaccinated. Whether or not they knew they were pregnant at the time doesn't make any difference. If they reported after becoming pregnant that they'd had the vaccine, they wouldn't be nagged to have it again. But if not, they would be asked to have it. So, in other words, the CDC is so determined to stick with the party line on vaccination that it spins its own data in order to be consistent with its preconceived decision that, in spite of all evidence, that the vaccine it may not be is advisable for all pregnant women. Now, I have this to say about doctors who continue to coerce pregnant women to get flu shots in spite of both the safety and efficacy concerns. There are only 2 possible reasons why this can continue to go on. One is they don't know all this information because they don't read the package inserts and they don't do any research themselves. This is very bad. Or they have read and understood the information and recommend the shot anyway. This is worse. Both scenarios bad for consumers, which continues to point to, and I know you might be tired of hearing me say it, but I say it every week, that we absolutely positively must educate consumers to just say no, because the likelihood that your own physician is going to say no to these things and not adhere to the party line, very, very small. All right, that's all for today. As usual, pass this on to anybody who you think might enjoy watching it, and I will be back to you on Thursday with more news.